Wish TV is proud to honor teachers in Central Indiana.
She is an inspiration to all of us.
He's always smiling.
Who go above and beyond.
He's done so many things for so many people.
He's inspirational.
Making a difference.
He's always taught me to believe in myself and never get down on myself.
Everybody's biggest cheerleader.
And deserving of recognition for their outstanding efforts in education.
I love the people that I work with. And to know that I've made an impact on somebody's life, it is truly a great honor.
It's an honor. I love what I do, and the kids are the ones who make it work. I'm like just so taken aback because I love them so much. The fact that, you know, they love me just as much just means a lot. Sorry, you're going to have to cut that part out.
And you are our winner.
Oh, thank you so much.
From Wish TV and the All Indiana Podcast Network, this is the Golden Apple Awards podcast.
Welcome to the Golden Apple Podcast. We're extending the conversation after a really fun Golden Apple surprise. Our October winner is Miss Amy Mitchell. She puts students first, even through her own battle with cancer. She's a biomedical science teacher in Lawrence Township at the Mackenzie Career Center and considers her students her kids. Her family joined in the surprise, and it was really emotional when we gave her the Golden Apple Award. It all happened so fast, so we brought Miss Mitchell back onto the podcast. Amy Mitchell, thank you so much for being on the podcast with us. We're so eager to get to learn a little bit more about you. First and foremost, how are you doing today after everything yesterday?
I'm doing great. I have had so many texts, emails, people calling to say, you know, they saw the segment on the TV and they were just thrilled. And it's been overwhelming, just how nice it's been for me. I've enjoyed it very much. Still very shocked. I mean, I still am trying to get over the fact that you guys showed up in my room with my family. And my dad, when he saw the video, it brought him to tears. And my dad is not a crier. And he said, they did such a nice job. And he just praised you.
Oh,
but it's been great. It's kind of a whirlwind, you know, since it happened, but it's been wonderful.
well, and that's kind of the reason we like to bring you on after the fact to chat a little bit here in the podcast, because we really put you on the spot during the surprise. So this is an opportunity just to get to learn a little bit more about you. I did want to say, though, it was so special that your dad made the trip for the surprise, and then to learn that he had such an education background too, being superintendent, right, for many years in Franklin.
Yeah, well, he started off as a social studies teacher. And so his career was like the first 5 or 6 years he taught social studies. And then he got his counseling license. So he was, you know, working in counseling. But later on, his specialist license allowed him to be he has assistant principal, and then moved into assistant superintendent for Franklin Schools. And that's predominantly what he did. He only served as the main superintendent as an interim basis when one superintendent was leaving. So he didn't do the superintendent for a long time. Predominantly, he was the assistant, and he dealt with secondary education, bus and transportation, but he loved it.
It certainly sounds like, though, that education is in your family.
Okay. Oh, yes. My mom worked preschool for 37 years. You know, dad was an educator. My twin, of course, my older sister, Julie, she's the one that said, nope, I am not going into education. So she got a business degree.
So is that what drove you to be a teacher, or what was your kind of inspiration to get into it?
You know, that's a good question. Originally, when I went to college, I was planning on being pre-med. I wanted to actually be a podiatrist because I had worked for a wonderful man, Dr. Mall. And, you know, here's a doctor that people come in hurting, and he makes them feel better a lot of the time. So they leave the office, you know, whether they had an ingrown toenail or they had calluses removed or whatever, they left feeling better. And I liked that, because a lot of times when people go to the doctor's office, you don't leave feeling better. You still hurt, you're still in pain or whatever. So my first 3 years, I was pre-med wanting to do that. And then I got to my junior year in college, and I decided I just didn't want to go another 8 to 10 years of school. I'm not sure how I was going to afford it. And to be honest with you, I'm like, I'm not smart enough. I knew it. I'm like, I just was honest with myself and said, I just don't think that is something that I could do. So I talked with my mom and dad, sat down and talked with them because it's my junior year. And my dad just simply said, hey, you have all of these science classes you've taken, 3 years of coursework. Why don't you try teaching science? And I'm like, no, I don't think I want to be a teacher. And he said, I'll tell you what, why don't you just do like an internship? Because Franklin College at the time I was there had January was a month where you could do an internship, you could take a class. So I decided to do a 1-month internship at a middle school to see if I would like it, and I loved it. The teacher that I was put with was fantastic, and she really inspired me. Number one, it was a female in science, and at that time you didn't see a lot of females. They were always guy teachers. And so I was so stoked to be with, a female, and she was wonderful, very intelligent. She knew her subject matter, but she loved the kids and the kids loved her. So after that month, I'm like, I think this is something that I would like to do. So I went ahead and graduated 1991 I also want to graduate with my twin. So I graduated with a biology degree. And then I went back for an additional year to take my methods classes and to do my student teaching. So it wasn't my first love, but by default, I went into it. And I'm really glad that my dad suggested it.
You said at the end of our interview, your lesson to others is never give up. And career-wise, that was really poignant because you did get out of it for a brief time. And you really emphasized that first year is hard as a teacher. Talk about that a little bit, your experience, but how you do love it so much now.
Yep. So when I did my student teaching, I taught at a high school, and I'll be honest with you, worked with great people. It was a fantastic staff, but I internally I was only, 21, 22 at the time. And those kids, some of them would have been seniors that were 17, 18 years old. I wasn't that much older than them. So them seeing me as a teacher, an authority figure, listening to me for discipline, it was really challenging. And I just wasn't sure. I'm like, I don't even know if I want to do this teaching thing in my student teaching. But my mentor teacher that I was with, he said, take the day, you go, and it was a Friday. He said, you think about this over the weekend. And if you seriously want to do this, you come back Monday, you're in charge, and so I did. I gave it consideration. I thought about it. And I'm not going to give up on this. And so I finished my student teaching, and I ended up getting a job when my right when it was over. So the school that I was at was a wonderful school, but I just think my inexperience at the time was a problem. Young, I said yes to many things. So I sponsored 4 clubs. I had 4 different classes that I had to prep for. And I was also a sponsor for the cheerleadings, the varsity and junior varsity cheerleading. And it was so overwhelming. I had so many things that I was exhausted. I was, giving myself an ulcer from the worrying about it and everything. I just think I love that they have really strong mentor programs now, because that's one of the things that have been put in place. Because so many people have a tough first year, they quit. But with the mentoring, you can talk to a mentor. They can get you through those down times or those hard times. And, that was the early 90s, 91, 92, 93, when I was doing this. So I'd never do it again today this way, but I started my second year and I quit 9 weeks into my second year because I was just so overwhelmed. I couldn't do it. And like I said, physically developed an ulcer. And so I quit. And I went to work in a law firm for 2 years, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Very informational for me, learned a lot, worked with some great people. But in that 2-year time span, I started missing interaction with kids. And so I, sat there and thought, okay, why don't you, instead of teaching high school, try middle school? And so I had several interviews, probably 5 or 6, where the obvious question was, why did you quit when you quit? And I'd say I would never do it again that way, but I explained the situation. And most of the time I got a thank you for interviewing. You know, nobody gave me a chance except up here at Lawrence Township. Dr. Walter Burke was the principal at Fall Creek Valley up here. And when I walked into the building, walked into the office for the interview, the staff, I just felt at home right off the bat. And when I got done with the interview with Dr. Burke, one of the things that he had said was, I understand. He said, there was a job that I wasn't fond of that I left as well. And so I had that connection right off the bat with him. And I was so thankful that he gave me an opportunity. Yes, I made a mistake, but he was willing to look at the other things. And I've been doing it ever since. So this is year 29 overall for me being a teacher. 19 of it was middle school, and then 9 has been high school. So that's why it was hard. My age, my inexperience, my inability to say no. Because when you're, and a lot of times when you're a first year teacher, to get the job, you do these things. And so that's why I like to tell that story for first year teachers. Don't give up. It's hard. There are peaks and valleys in that first year, good times, bad times, but make it through that first year, make adjustments, get your discipline under control. And then by your second and third year, it's so much smoother. So that's my journey, why I said it was difficult for me.
I think that's a really important lesson for people to hear, though, that you are the top of the top teachers now, but it's not necessarily always that way in the beginning, and that it takes the effort, the time, and the setbacks, and step back and then step forward. So I think that is just amazing that you share that story. It tells all of us you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be the perfect person at your job immediately. So I appreciate you telling that story and sharing it. And I appreciate you opening up about your health battles too. I think that was a big point that we did feature in the story too, that you're so committed to your students that in this case, now 29 years into teaching, you did have a big health scare, cancer. Talk about that. Your sister actually filled me in a little bit on the Walmart bag story. We didn't have time to put it in the story. So if you want to talk about that first, and then how you put your students first.
Yes, it was a diagnosis purely by accident. I strongly believe that, yes, when I tripped over that curb and I hurt myself, had to go to the doctor after there had been several things after that fall. I had done some traveling to go visit my husband. And when it was in Texas, my knee was hurting, my arm was hurting, my ribs were, I just did, and I went to a chiropractor a couple of times thinking, oh, I've just jarred my shoulder,
and well, because what happened is you guys were running in the rain and you put a Walmart bag on your head.
My hair didn't get wet.
So your hair didn't get wet, but hey, that maybe saved your life.
See the curb, and I tripped right over. And you know how when you fall, I get up, I look around. I'm like, here's the idiot wearing a Walmart sack on her head, and she falls into the public. So got into the store and I'm laughing about it, but oh man, I was hurting later on, and that pain didn't go away. I leaned over a chair to pick something up off the floor, and I felt one of my ribs literally like break. I didn't know that's what it was at the time. I just knew I had a tremendous pain that shot in, and I thought, oh my gosh, you've pulled a muscle or something leaning over a chair. What is wrong with you? And I'm like, I attributed it, it's my age, but it just wasn't healing. So that's when I made an appointment to go see my family doctor, who is a godsend. He's a blessing. His name is Dr. Bruce Records. He's in Greenwood, Indiana. He's been a doctor for years. And when I was telling him some of my symptoms, he was the very first person that he knew I need to test you for this, because he said, we need to do a urinalysis. We need to do some blood work. At the time, I don't know that he said multiple myeloma, but he said, I think we need to do some more testing. You're too young to have broken bones and stuff like that. So I had the tests done, and it came back that there was protein in the urine, which should not be there. High levels of proteins, which is an indicator. You can have minute amounts, but you shouldn't have a lot. And so those physiological things is what he set his diagnosis on. And I was teaching one day, and at the end of the day, I turned on my phone because it's off during the day, and I got a message. I'm referring you to Dr. Meyer at Community South Hospital. She's an oncologist, and we want you to talk with her about what the next steps are going to be. And I listened to it again. I said, oncologist. So that was the first time in a voicemail that I was like, cancer. He's talking that I might have cancer. So of course I was freaking out a little bit internally. Didn't tell anybody. I went to the appointment. I didn't tell my husband or anybody because I wanted to go to the appointment and find out, all I needed to find out. Because I think it's that science part of my mind. Give me the details. So I went and talked to her. She's just fabulous. And she's down to earth. She talks to you, she understands things. And it was the same thing. She said, well, it could be this or it could be that. So she did a series of tests and then came back with the diagnosis that it was the multiple myeloma. And she put me on a course of action right away. So I was doing the treatments weekly. So I would go in weekly for shots into my abdomen in preparation for the stem cell transplant that happened in April. So that was it was kind of a whirlwind thing, but I do attribute to that accident saving my life.
You're getting the treatments, you're teaching your students, you don't tell them though, and then your doctor says, hey, I need you to do this in February, and you say, I can't yet. Well, what went through your mind and why that choice?
So I talked with my administrator, Mari Swang, and wanted her opinion. Do you think I should let the kids know? Because this was, I was diagnosed in October. I had the symptoms and the testing done in August and September, but by October it was a full diagnosis. And so we both decided it would be best if I held off just a little bit telling the kids. So, my prep was the last block of the day. So my administrators were awesome. They let me leave on my prep to go to the hospital and get my shots and so forth. So the kids really didn't know anything because I was doing really well, and so the only time I'd have to miss wasn't because I was feeling sick or anything like that. It was for doctor's appointments and so forth. So after Christmas, I think it was sometime in the second semester, then I decided it was probably time to let them know. So I just told all of my classes, I just said, hey, I've got this thing called multiple myeloma. It's a type of cancer. I said, there's no cure. And I was just really straightforward with them. I said, but I am going to have some treatments that is going to have to take place during the school year. So I told the kids, I'm going to be here with you up until spring break. And then somebody else is going to be teaching you the rest of the year. And, the kids were sitting there. You don't know exactly what's going through their mind. But I think it was a little shocking to them. But they handle it beautifully. And the other thing that I was doing, I started with below shoulder length hair. And so starting in December, January, I would go and get it cut shorter and shorter to prep myself for losing my hair. And so that was another thing I razzed with the kids that, oh, you got your hair cut again. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to lose it. And so you try to keep it upbeat. See these toddlers fighting cancer and these young kids, I'm like, come on, pull up your pants. You're an adult. You can do this. If these little kids can do this, Ms. Mitchell, you can do this too. And so everything was great. The school found a wonderful man named Kurt Springer. He had been a teacher in Lawrence and he's retired. And so he came and did my leave for me. And he's a wonderful man, wonderful educator, did a great job. I worried about my kids, of course, during my absence, but I was very confident. And my colleague, Alessia Shear, did all of my lesson plans for me, helped Kurt. Amy Henshaw, the one that was in the video, she came and visited me at the hospital. Paul Legg at the time was one of our teachers, would text and make sure that things were going well technology-wise with Kurt. And so I left everything in wonderful hands. But yeah, I was still worried about them. So they knew I told them when spring break is over, there's going to be somebody new here. So that's how, how things went down with the kids, but they were wonderful. Kids are resilient. They handle everything, beautifully. If, some gave me a hug, some had a few tears. Probably there were some out there going, ooh, we're not going to have her these last 7 weeks.
How about your new class of kids? Because it's a different round of kids now this year. What was their response to, I guess, finding out about your story? I'm assuming they knew before we surprised you, or was that a surprise?
So when I had the procedure in April, that's when I lost my hair. I was completely bald. And so April, May, June, July. So we started at the end of July, early August. And I had been wearing head covers. And so my hair was real. I did have hair by the time school was going to start. And I questioned, do I leave the head coverings on or do I take them off? And all my friends and colleagues were like, you've got hair, take that off. And I also didn't want to start school. Here's the lady with the headband or, bandana on, cancer person. Because I don't want to. So I had buzzed hair, and on like the first day of school, I gave the kids a test, just a quick test. What do you know about Mrs. Mitchell? They don't know me at all. So it's like 10 questions. And one of the questions was, why does Mrs. Mitchell have such short hair? And there were 3 or 4 things that they could choose from. And one of them was that I'd had a procedure that caused my hair loss. So that's kind of how I introduced them to him instead of just saying, yeah, I had cancer. It was this or that. So once we went over the answers to the questions, the kids were, hey, thanks for telling us. It's not a major part. It's not anything that I focus on. But right off the bat, I wanted them to know, because I miss my long hair.
Oh, I get it.
So that's how I told the first group. So they knew like from the first day, if I had the kids, that I had the cancer. And so that's how they knew. And it hasn't come up unless in my classes, if they're talking about something and a kid asks, then I'll, talk to them about it. But,
Good.
because I'm feeling great, doing great. And
you seem like you're doing great. You have great energy, obviously. And your students, they just love you. Tara, she just had the sweetest things to say about you. What did the kids say after this whole ordeal, after we surprised you, after yesterday?
What's funny? A couple of kids, I guess, saw the announcement on the board, the electronic board, and they're like, I saw your name on the board. What's that all about? And so I just, short story, hey, I was nominated for this award by my sister. It was through Channel 8 and I actually won it. And I said it was just a big surprise thing. And they're like, oh, that's really cool. But most of them haven't really said too much about it. It's, been my colleagues and friends and, kind of the older people. The kids probably, our kids are, oh, okay.
What happened?
What's on this TikTok video?
Yeah, exactly. No, I totally get it. I thought it was so special, though. Your relationship with your sister is clearly very close. I have 2 sisters, but no twin sister. And it was so funny when she said she can't keep a secret. She worked really hard to get you nominated. And it just was special to see.
I'm so glad I'm a twin because she's 5 minutes older than me. And so we always tease. We have the older sister, Lori's the middle sister. I'm the baby. I've always said I'm the baby by 5 minutes. But she's always been my protector. Since we were young, she's always taken care of me or made sure that everything was okay with me. And so when I was first diagnosed, it took her by surprise. It took everybody by surprise. But I'm like, hey, don't get upset. We're going to do this. I'm feeling good about it, staying positive. And so that was our thing. She was, every time I had an appointment, I want to be there. What were the results of this test? So from step 1 on, she and my husband have just been my rocks. for support, for sounding boards. And she's a fantastic teacher herself. She loves her students and does so much for them. The kids, I could nominate her for the Golden Apple Award. She throws her total heart into it as well. So yes, we are very close. Not to say we haven't had our holes through the years.
That's also true. You know, going back to teaching, you've been a teacher for a long time, but I would imagine the last few years, not your cancer, but just with the pandemic and a shortage of teachers coming in and not many substitutes either. I'd imagine it's been a strange time. What is your take on where we are now and how we can move forward to be in a better place for teachers?
Yeah, that's a great question. I wish I had the universal answer or the panacea of education. We can't solve every problem. We can't fix everything that's wrong with every student. You know, there's so many factors that are at play. Their socioeconomics, what their home life is like, what has happened to them. And that, like you said, the pandemic. Tara, the one that was in the video, she was in that class where I saw her part of the time. I didn't have her part of the time. So I saw her maybe once or twice a week. So I really feel sorry for those kids during those 2 first years, especially when we were all distance learning, and then even the year after that it did such a disservice. I know why we had to do it, but it's such a disservice to the kids who not only academically suffered, but socially. Kids didn't have a chance to socialize with each other, which I feel is so important, especially with the elementary age kids, middle school kids. They need to know how to socially interact. When you're sitting at home behind a screen or with your camera off, they're not engaged. So in my school corporation, we got back to learning like when the pandemic hit and we were all off from like March till the end of school. We came back that August with totally virtual, a hybrid. And so we were ready to get back because, you know, Lawrence Township, and I know a lot of school corporations were like, we need to get these kids back. And I know that was Indiana. Across the country, I know that didn't happen. There were school corporations and, you know, some groups, unions that they were afraid for their teachers to go back in the classroom. And so they were virtual for a long, long time. And, you know, each school or each state is going to do something different, but I was glad that Indiana, or at least my township, made the step, let's get those kids back. And I think that was the goal of most schools. It's going to take a long time to fix it. We've seen test scores, math especially, have plummeted. And how we in America are going to compete against other countries, it's a scary thought to me. You know, other countries have suffered the same. The one thing about teachers leaving is lower pay. I can get paid more if I go in science. I can go to a lab, work in a lab. I can go into the business world. I can do this or that. And with some lack of support in some areas of education, there's sometimes teachers feel like that. Who's got my back? Who's going to support me? Who's going to take care? You know, if I have a discipline issue, am I going to be backed? Am I not going to be backed? If, you know, there are just so many factors that I think it's going to take a long time. So increasing pay, and I know that there are some places out there that are giving stipends or bonuses, like sign-on bonuses. Come teach. Give us 3 years and you can get this. I think that's a great idea. I do think that, like, I teach high school in a CTE building, which is Career and Tech Ed. You're going to need some people. If a teacher's not available, they are bringing in people from the workforce, you know, that have that work experience that can teach the knowledge of the coursework. Now, where they lack is the methods classes and those, when you do your student teaching, developing your discipline, your interacting with kids. They tend to struggle with that, but they know their content. So I do think that's going to be more of what you see temporary licenses to get teachers into the classroom, lightening the expectations of what teachers are going to have in order to be in the classroom. I know there's one state that I heard that was bringing in their National Guard to serve as teachers in the classroom. So it's a great question. I don't know the answer. But I know that we all care and want it to get better. And the only way you can do that is working together, not separate, not be more in the center of what's best for the kids, what's best for their families, what's best for teachers. Can we look at what's best for everybody? And then I think you'll get more people if they feel appreciated, because in teaching, you don't get bonuses usually. You get praise, you get accolades. You're doing a good job. Thanks for what you do. That pat on the back goes such a long way. That I think if people feel like with any job, if you feel appreciated, I think you'll stay in the job. If you don't feel that way and you get down or struggle, I can go do something else. So I think in the education world, we're going to have to do some things that say teachers are important, kids are important, their families are important, and let's work together to, get those test scores up, get those social aspects where kids can socialize and not be staring at their phones all the time and not have communication skills. So
we need to value the teachers.
And I don't want to sound like, oh, well, only teachers are disrespected. That's not the case at all. I know that there are many jobs that are very difficult where people are experiencing disrespect, non-compliance. So there's pros and cons with every job. We have wonderful pros with our job, but I do think that the respect factor, since 28 years ago, 29 years ago, from when I started to, I do think has changed. Respect goes a long way, both teacher to student, student to teacher, teachers with parents and families. And I just think in the world, there's just so much disrespect of people and their views. And if you're different, then you're wrong, or there's something, So,
increase respect. I think, just increase the good if possible.
I love that. Yes.
I think you embody the good that there is with teachers, certainly. And I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me more in depth today. And then also just letting us come bombard you, because I know it's a lot.
You can bombard it. I had no idea you were bombarding. So I appreciate it immensely.
Well, thank you so much. And thanks for being here on our podcast.
All right. Thank you.
I'm Hannah Mordeau from Wish TV. Every month we take your nominations for amazing Central Indiana teachers making a crucial difference in our children's lives. We hear their stories and surprise one winning teacher in class with a trophy, a $500 school supply shopping spree to teachers' treasures, and a surprise visit from me. Of course, a nomination video all about their hard work, too. So if you know a teacher deserving recognition, please tell us their story. We encourage students, parents, colleagues, everyone who knows these teachers to nominate them for their outstanding efforts in education. Get all of the details and nominate someone right now at wishtv.com. Then be sure to watch Wish TV every month to see the winning stories, or subscribe to the Golden Apple Awards podcast right here on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
The Wish TV Golden Apple Awards podcast. Nominate a teacher and learn more at wishtv.com now. Be sure to follow and subscribe to this podcast and discover even more great podcasts now on the All Indiana Podcast Network at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.